Hi there. Hey, Mitchell here. Good to see you. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about avoidance. I don't know why, but for some reason, it's a topic that comes up for me right now. And every time something comes up, it's like, oh, well, this is something that needs to be looked into. So, hey, that's where we're going. Avoidance of emotion, avoidance of situations. It's a psychological issue that is perhaps fairly warm or fairly hot right now. Um, and so I'm asking the question, what is it? What is this avoidance? I hear a lot about what it is, but maybe the better question is, how do I overcome this? Because I hear a lot about the definitions, but I have not seen a heck of a lot about how to uncover these emotions, how to deal with them, how to confront them, how to bring it back to the surface, how to be a whole functioning person. And stories, a lot of stories about the problem, very few instructions as to move past the problem. So the question has been asked, what is this avoidance and how do I overcome this? I see this. I put out the question. The question is now out there, and let's see what comes. So I'm just going to wait and see what comes. And my first little hit is that being in presence and accepting what is one of the biggest drivers, and it's a sense of insecurity, unacceptance of what is. And so when you go into unacceptance of what is, then you whatever emotion or feeling or sensation that maybe first occurred in correspondence to the feeling that is buried, comes back. And so it's a psychological thing. It's a thing in the mind. It's a behavior. And so what you're doing is you're uprooting, you're digging up a story from your childhood or from your past or your distant past, and you're replaying that story as if it were continuing. So let's try to be very, very present with what's happening and allow what's happening in the moment to happen. Let's feel what comes up in the body, really feel it. And if you've watched my previous videos, of course, I do a lot of polyvagal work, and I have this one ongoing principle that is the 80-20 principle. And it's for every 4 signals, that's the 80% that the body emits, the mind has only one answer. That's that 20%. Anyway, so if there's 4 questions sent up to the mind has only one answer. And maybe that's why there's this sense of burying, because the body only has one answer for a multitude of different issues, and the body's sending thousands of, who knows, millions of messages to the brain continuously. The brain or the mind, that's a good part too. Which is it the brain or the mind? Let's call it the brain right now, because that's the physical mechanism. The mind can be that larger piece that you can detach from the thinkingness, and we'll go into that. So, wow, a lot of things are coming up for this. Let's continue with this piece about the body sending up more messages than the brain will process. And so the body gets one answer for every 4 questions, or there's for 80%, it's sending up 80 questions, only 20 are being answered. That's not 80-20, is it? That's, let's see here, 20 out of 80. Anyway, math. You get where I'm going with this, right? So what I've talked about in my previous videos is a lot of the polyvagal work. Let's use the body itself to calm the body, because the mind right now, well, no, we're not saying the mind, the senses, the brain is bringing in so much stimulation, so much stimuli that there's no way that it can process it all. We have, our phones that are just sending us continuous messages, the YouTube, the video, the news, the TV, the media is sending us hundreds of thousands of messages a day to a nervous system that was not built to handle that. And the nervous system, fascinatingly enough, was built to exist and respond to the present moment. Okay, that saber-toothed tiger is coming across the veld. You process and respond in that moment to that threat. And now there are, and really, so the brain body complex really only lives in the moment. But now with media and multiple streams of stimulation, we are drawn into the future and the past and stories of what could happen and trajectories branching off in millions of different ways continuously. And so the brain itself is splintered. So let's begin with a very anchored physical body practice, okay? Anyway, I mentioned some of my previous videos working on polyvagal stuff. I would highly recommend that you go back and take a look at some of those. There's multiple different releases, and then there's releases to release stress, anxiety, stored up polyvagal cues that need to be just dealt with. And then there's also toning, which opens up your ability to be more present, and the place where you can access your sense of safety. Okay, so the polyvagal system there's basically three main parts, but really you can break it down into two. So there's the dorsal vagal, which is where lockdown lives, which is just straight up protection, and it's fear-based. And then there's fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system. That's the dorsal vagal system. Then there's the ventral vagal system, and in there is where you get the parasympathetic, which is safety, rest, relax, digest, all these stimulations. And so if we've been, and our culture, not if, our culture highly stimulates this dorsal vagal system, the sympathetic, the fight or flight, and the dorsal vagal lockdown. It stimulates the fear system and continuously, and that gets built up into the body, and it creates a space where the body itself begins to show such things as chronic pain, anxiety continuously, and it's body-based anxiety, not so much just this fear in the mind. It's in the body. The body itself is at a space of fight or flight. So that's those signals, right? If we can turn down the fight or flight signals that are in the body And, the brain itself can say, oh, this is okay. Then let's also turn down let's not do that one. Let's do this one. That was hard to say. Excuse me. I might have to stop and redo this video. Anyway, so we're turning down fight or flight. We're turning down brain. And let's turn down that dorsal vagal lockdown, or just the straight up fear. And let's turn on the ventral vagal, or the safety mode. And so we get all of this together. Maybe the mind is still up here, or the brain, right? The brain is still clacking away. And then that's where we bring in mindfulness, which is this other piece that is maybe not entirely body-brain based. It's the you that is part of the eternal, that is of the much larger piece of you, that is time to embrace, especially now. Time to embrace this larger piece of us that is all about being, omnipotence, omniscience. It is this space of all-encompassing awareness, and it's being present. So when you're very, very present, then you learn to accept whatever it is in this body space, because you also are connecting with this much, much larger piece of you that is eternal, that is everywhere, that is non-physical, and is never threatened by any physical component. So connect with that, connect with presence, you connect with your larger non-physical component, and you enact mindfulness, which then you've turned down all these body-based stressors. The mindfulness can then help calm the brain, which is really the brain's number one job, is to keep the body safe. So it's always looking for something out there that is a threat. And so we turn down the brain, or we keep the brain focused with mindfulness on presence, on awareness, on the eternity of what you really are, of your larger, more substantial, however, less physical component. And the brain calms down. Okay, so then we've deactivated this anxiety. So the anxiety is there. It shows up when there is some sort of emotion that is a deep, unprocessed, maybe fear-based. It's definitely, its goal is safety. Its goal is safety, love, tribe, connection. And we connect, we enable that piece of the connection, safety, within the physical piece, within the physical body, mostly through the physical stuff, through those practices that I mentioned, my polyvagal practices. And then with mindfulness, we turn the brain towards safety also by looking for that larger piece of ourselves, that piece that is eternal, that is not dependent on physical things to make us safe or to turn off the fear. So the fear, I'm starting to sense that it's the fear that turns on all these crazy emotions that end up being buried, and that we try to hide, and that we try to avoid, so that we can have a sense of safety. This is very interesting. It's just starting to come through, or make sense to me. I think I've just been sort of listening to the messages coming in response to the question asked earlier, which was, why do we bury? What is it that we are buried? And how do we unbury? How do we accomplish feeling safe and eliminating the anxiety? And the anxiety is caused by the buried emotions, and the buried emotions were really an attempt for an outcome. And so let's put the outcome aside. Let's be very, very present with every single moment, because every single moment is a new moment. And let's be present to that new moment and not be in fear. Embrace it. Because what was it that we discovered? It's the stimulation of today's technologies that are able to scatter the brain's awareness into so many fields that it creates an ongoing fear that is very, very, very hard to tamp down. So anyway, I really hope that this is helpful. I feel like it's different, it's new, it might be hard to track for some because it is kind of a different perspective. But let's go back to what we're talking about. Let's really outline it in order to maybe unbury buried emotions, that these emotions' primary purpose were to push us towards safety. The big component that put the brakes on was fear. And that fear was that somehow this body was being threatened. So we're going to do multiple different polyvagal exercises to help put the body into its own sense of safety, so that we can turn down a lot of the body stimulations or the body's signals, and then we can concentrate on what the brain is doing. And with the brain, we go to mindfulness. We come into presence. We come into acceptance that we are, even as a physical being, part of something much, much, much larger. So I think that's what I have for you today. If you like this, if you get it, please comment, like, subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.